Design Review Board meeting for Thursday, May 6th. At this point, can we have a call to order? And it looks like first order of business is election of officers. That is election of chair and the vice chair. At this time, I will make a motion that we appoint Chairman Charnetsky to be the chair of the Design Review Board.
I'll second.
We have a motion and a second. Are there any other nominations? Hearing none, all those in favor of electing Chairman Charnetsky again to be the chairman of the Design Review Board, please say aye.
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 Any nays? And she is once again our chair. This would be election of a vice chairman. Is there a nomination for a vice chairman?
I make a motion that we have David be our vice chair.
I'll second that.
Okay, we have a motion and a second. Any other nomination? None. All those in favor of me being the vice chair, say aye.
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 Okay, and with that, we will move on to item B, which is a remodel request for 750 Valverde. We have a staff report.
Certainly, thank you, Vice Chair, board members, members of the public and city staff. First item of business on the agenda are the design plans for an attached garage addition to 750 Valverde Circle East. I'm going to go ahead and, if you don't mind, as typical, Pam, I believe there's someone waiting to admit the room that's calling in. Do you want me to go ahead and admit them? I just want to make sure. I'll just admit them. If you guys don't mind, I'm going to go ahead and share my screen so you can see the staff report.
No, okay. Sorry, Jason, that was Chair Charnetsky, so.
Oh, I apologize.
Hold on just a second.
Thanks. I'll wait.
Okay,
There we go. Okay.
we're
I
good.
can share my screen now. All right. I'll just wait for it to load. It shows it's sharing. Can you guys see my staff report?
Yes.
Wonderful. Okay. So you can see here the design plans for an attached garage addition to 750 Valverde Circle East. The intention is, if you look over here on the left side of the current Google Street View of the home, you'll see a truck park there. Their intention is to do what would at first glance appear to be a detached two-car garage addition. Currently, where you see that truck, there's a turn-in side entry garage that goes in behind that brick wall. So I'm not sure if their future intention is to convert that to livable or not, but that's not at the request of this application. The application is just to ask to add a two-car garage with a somewhat unique appearance. You can see the profile of the elevation here, where you can see the brick from the home is incorporated on the front elevation. I imagine the roof pitch is intended to match, generally speaking, the roof pitch of the home, and then there'd be siding used on the remainder of the rear, which will really not be very visible from the street. Overall, the intention of the homeowner is to start with this garage, and I believe their intention is to ultimately remodel the entire exterior of the home as stated in the staff report. What they want to do is they're going to eventually do a standing seam metal roof on the whole structure and do what they've done to the garage, incorporate those sort of architectural elements into the home itself, which would be subject to a future application and approval by the Design Review Board. However, until that time, staff finds that, really generally speaking, adding the brick and having a garage door in the front and the same roof pitch as the home itself, I think it's a close enough integration to the architecture of the existing residence that they could build the garage first and do something else with the rest of the home later. at least that was in our review, that you have the full packet in your report. If anybody needs the full set of PDFs for the project, including the site plan, I can share that as well. You'll note that the home meets the current setback requirements of the primary structure, and to avoid any concerns about the accessory structure exceeding certain square footages, it's actually attached to the primary residence of the trellis feature, so it's considered part of the main building. And so that's the, I'm not certain if it's really a workaround or if it's just an architectural feature that they wanted to provide some shade cover as you exit the garage to enter the home. In that case, staff feels that the additional clearly add value to the residents and the overall neighborhood. We support the application, subject to the exhibits provided by the applicant and the condition that all colors, building materials, and finishes shall match those of the existing residence or as modified by the exhibits provided by the applicant. I'd be happy to answer the questions.
Are there any questions of Mr. Sanks? Okay, is the applicant here?
I am.
Could you state your name for the record? And then if you'd like to add anything to the staff report, feel free to do so.
Of course. Good evening, all esteemed members. I'm in the school industry, so I apologize if I do not greet you in the right way. So yes, that was explained perfectly. I do live in Litchfield Park since 2010, and I want to retain the ranch look of the home. It will be an attached garage with that trellis feature as explained. It will have the same brick fascia because I do want it to blend in to this, the existing house structure. I will keep the 2-car garage. My goal is to have a 4-car garage because I like vehicles and I like to have them under a garage. The modern accent of the glass garage door will be added, obviously, through this remodel, and then the matching one will be added to my existing garage. If you guys have any questions, I'd love to answer them. If so be.
Do any of the commissioners have questions for the applicant? Okay, hearing none. Are we ready for, would someone like to make a motion?
I'll move that we approve the package subject to the, at 750 Val Verde Circle East, subject to the stipulations by staff to meet match color and existing features.
Is there a second?
I'll second.
We have a motion and a second to approve, subject to the everything, the normal stipulations of matching colors, etc. All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Aye. Anyone opposed? Hearing none, the application is approved.
I want to say thank you, and thank you for advocating for a tremendous city. You guys are doing a fabulous job.
Thank you. At this point, I believe it would be appropriate for us to bring back Chairman Charnetsky, and then so she can run the rest of the meeting.
Okay. Am I back in?
Yes.
I do hear you and I see you.
Okay. Are you still on screen share? Or
I'm still on screen share on the second item on the agenda.
okay. So we're moving on to the new exterior color proposed for 680 Fairway Circle.
That's correct.
Okay.
Fairway Drive. Yes, ma'am.
Fairway. Okay. Would you like to give us your staff report, Jason?
Certainly, and thank you, Chair, and board members, and the homeowner, I believe, is attending. This is a unique request for the board, and so I want to take a little time to kind of go through the staff evaluation and add some additional commentaries so that everyone kind of gets a well-rounded approach to kind of the design review process. So not obviously the design review board and staff understands it, but for any of the public that's listening. So the applicant for the project, the homeowner, has requested approval for exterior accent colors that have already been added to their mid-century modern home. They're not currently colors that are generally on the city's approved earth tone palette. And mind you, the palette for the city is probably larger than you think. There's quite a variety of colors, but none of the colors are quite as eye-popping as you might find on some residences of the mid-century modern era. In the spirit of kind of having some fun or expressing themselves with their home, the homeowner made some changes to the exterior of the home. You can see the Google Street View shows what the home looked like before the modifications were made. And if you were to scroll down, I've included pictures that were provided of some of the customization they've done to the home. The panels have been approved for the solar, but we're focusing today on the application of the bright orange red color, depending on how it appears on your screen. It may appear more orange, may appear more red. Now, so in the instance where there's an application or a request for color, whether it's already been done or if it's being proposed to be done, if it doesn't closely resemble a color that's on the existing approved color palette, which mind you is a color palette that was approved by the design review board for staff to use at their discretion, so that not every single paint job in the town comes to the design review board. But if something were to vary from that palette, the board does have some discretion with the color palette. Certainly the homeowner can make their case. And so the homeowner has stated in their application, hey, we have a mid-century modern home. We want to live in the spirit of the mid-century modern home, which includes often adding brighter accents to the home's exterior to highlight specific features, for example. So here are the colors that you would see if you were to drive past the home today. The application of this kind of almost board and batten siding wall over here is done in this orange red color, as well as the inserts of where the windows are located between the slump block. Now, I wanted to take some time to do more research. I've looked at a lot of mid-century modern homes. I've spent obviously a lot of time in Litchfield Park. I've spent a lot of time in Palm Springs and other areas where you've seen a lot of homes built during that era. And I wanted to share with you some of the photos of some of other mid-century modern homes that have been completed. And if you look here, it is true, in keeping with the spirit of what the homeowner wants to do, that items like front doors or elements of accents, I apologize for the smallness of these images, but I wanted to bring you a variety of what's been done successfully with the mid-century modern. And usually the bright colors that are brought forward are done usually with front doors or very specific trim elements. And so in looking at that and contemplating the homeowners, interest in expressing themselves, and us, as a city staff, not wanting to really suppress that, but at the same time be mindful of keeping some consistency in the way we apply our design review kind of principles and adopted code requirements to the homes. We've had a couple of neighbors that have actually complained about the appearance of the home, that it's overwhelming. Not so much as an accent, but really the broad face of the wall has been painted that color. So it's not really an accent at this point, it's becoming a body color. And so, being mindful of the homeowner's right to the property and to express themselves, I did write the report a bit. I tried to be considerate of the homeowner while at the same time expressing that the city has a desire to be considerate of the overall neighborhood, not just what the expression of the single property owner wants to do, is that we would encourage the property owner to bring something forward that may mute, in particular, this wall, or find a color that might be more in the spirit of what you would find, excuse me for scrolling and making you dizzy, and what we see in a lot of successful mid-century modern homes, where you find The feature that you want to really be standing out and what the rest of the home is a variety of usually generally muted textures and material types, fenestration, and interesting roof lines that define the mid-century modern era, where the bright color is brought to a feature that you want to draw the eye to, not necessarily just find places to put bright colors. So with that said, staff recommends that the owner would consider an alternative approach to the use of the bold colors they do desire on the residence, still finding a way to implement that desire in the spirit of the mid-century modern era, for which we have a lot of housing stock, but bring a proposal to the board that perhaps mutes that and does it more so in the spirit of the examples I've provided. I'd say this because it would give the homeowner an opportunity to express themselves in their home, while at the same time, not kind of shocking some of the neighborhood by painting broad-faced walls in bright colors that are not on the city's approved palette. Because it puts the board in a bit of a conundrum of, well, if we allow someone to paint a giant wall bright orange, what's to preclude the next homeowner from doing the same thing and saying, well, this is my right of expression? So we have to consider the balance between the two. And it's staff's position that the homeowner explore other ways to accomplish their goal of making their home unique, enjoying the mid-century modern era approach to the boldness, but doing it more so in a muted fashion. So that's our recommendation, to bring it back and consider something more muted. And with that, I'd be happy to answer questions. I'd also be happy to review the code section that does require that the home meet the town's approved, or the city's approved color palette. Although the board has some discretion, there's been a long-standing policy of erring on the side of conservative rather than kind of running off the charts with the color palettes. So I hope that is a balanced approach to this. I know it's a sensitive issue related to ownership and expression, but we're trying to find common ground here so that they can do what they want and the neighbors are not up in arms.
Thank you, Jason. Any questions for Jason, or as a homeowner, would you like to add anything to that?
Yes, ma'am, I would. Hello, everyone. My name is Jonathan Rios. My wife, Alicia, and I just recently moved in and purchased the property in October. So we're recent neighbors. Thank you so much. This is our second time in front of the board, actually. You guys helped us tremendously with the solar panels. You guys gave a recommendation to position them in a different way, and that's also helped tremendously. So thank you again. My wife she graduated with an architecture degree, and my family they've been in Litchfield Park since the 1900s. They were in the farms, at the camps. And my grandma, we moved out here from Los Angeles to be with my grandma, who just recently passed in February. She was the one at the camps. So all that to say, very succinctly, is that when it comes to historical integrity and architectural integrity, those are two things that really matter to us and that we take a lot into consideration. Specifically regarding the paint color, a majority of the property is the sump block. And we wanted to make sure that we had that unifying integrity when it comes to the neighborhood. I felt like that was the unifying identifying characteristic when it came to architecture. So we wanted to stay true to that. And when it came to having, so if you see it from the front angle, you would see a majority of our property is still everything that was sump block is still that same color. And even from the picture at the very top right there, where it was the original colors, it's just the vertical siding that we were trying to highlight. So when the gentleman so eloquently waxed poetic on the mid-century modern highlights and specific features that you're trying to highlight, the vertical wooden siding was what we went with, as opposed to coloring or painting the sump block. It's a bit of a garish picture because right there in the middle, it makes it look a little strange, mainly because that was St. Patrick's Day. So we made an Italian flag on our door. So it makes it look a little bit busy, but it's not as busy as that normally. Regarding the wood siding in the front and then as well as on the side, if you look at it from the front, it really is more of an accent color. It's not a trim and it's not the body. Being able to identify and locate the paint colors for Litchfield Park ahead of time was a head scratcher. We were told that there was no HOA and that if we went to the website, because my wife is very overly conscientious about these types of things. She's very much a rule follower. So when we heard about this, she, gave a clutch my pearls, oh my Lord type thing. All that to say, we couldn't find the paint colors or the specific codes online. We weren't able to get them emailed to us. In fact, we had to go in person and track them down, almost like it was the suitcase from Pulp Fiction that you open up for the first time. It's like, oh, they're the magic paint colors. Unfortunately, we learned about this after we painted the house. So I think the main issue is the carport garage. If you guys are familiar with how narrow the carports are, it's that one is the one that sticks out once you turn across, make that turn onto Fairway Drive. I feel like if our house was a regular house that was set back, we wouldn't be having this issue right now. I think it's skylighted and spotlighted because it juts out almost into like a little peninsula as you come across through no fault of our own. We did buy the house so as it laid. If you see on the side of the carport, you see our cactus sticking up right there with the chestnut that was moved. And those tiny little bushes that look really sad right there. We had to trim those back because all of the siding that is alongside there was rotting and coming apart. So since we purchased the property in October or in September, we've put a brand new roof on, we've put new solar on, we've painted it, we've taken care of it. We have real pride of ownership, and the value of it has been raised over $100,000 just since we purchased it. A lot of that has to do with the skyrocketing real estate, which that's what I do.
Just real quick, we're going to focus on what we're here for, and that's the color, and just kind of, if you understand our point about the mid-century using just accents and doors and trim and not exactly a wide swath for your bright color. Do you have an objection to toning that down? I would try to stay focused on this because we have several other projects after you tonight.
Understood, ma'am. I was just trying to give you a thoughtful answer.
Yeah.
The two bushes that are there, we're replacing. They go up and grow up to be about half tall. So what you're seeing right now, it's only really going to be half that amount. The paint is going to fade. We just recently got it. So with faded paint, with trees or bushes that are a little bit taller, I don't think it's going to be as garish. And I think novelty is what raises people's hair sometimes. It's the exact color match to the Ocotillo cactus, which is right in front of our house. So it's a natural color of a flower that blooms naturally here in Arizona. So yes, I would request that we make an exception and pull this one color into the color palette, please.
Okay. And you understand our objection is not the color, but just simply that it's such a large area of that color.
Correct.
Thank you. Because we're not asking you to change, or at least I wouldn't ask, like for the door, that's obviously appropriate. And the insets maybe on the front is fine, but there is that one large section, and it's if it's jarring for your neighbors, I think in the interest of community, it's nice to kind of help us all be a little harmonious together.
We also don't want to give a microphone to the vocal minority of two people.
Well, you might be surprised how many people who would object if they live next door. So and it's also a precedent that we're setting for other neighborhoods, and other neighbors would have to deal with this. So appreciate it, and I appreciate your. I was
just referencing the two people that were mentioned earlier by number. I didn't make that one up. I've had multiple people walk by and say how inspired they are by it as well. So we want to make sure that they're equally heard.
Okay. Well, at this time, I'll invite the other board members to, if they have questions or comments, to bring those forth right now.
Susan, I have a question.
Yeah.
First, when looking at the picture, it almost looks like there's two different tones in the coloration. Is it all one color? Especially in the doorway. If you look in the front doorway, it looks like it's a pink and an orange.
Yes, sir. If you see the highlighted picture that's towards the bottom next to the chess set, the part where there's the sunlight, that's the primary color, and that's all the same. Based on the shadowing, they have different tints, but it's all the same.
Okay. And then, Mr. Rios, I mean, I certainly appreciate a little bit of color. I've got some in my home, but I definitely think, at least in the community, that sometimes less is more. And if I don't have a problem with the color as an accent, but definitely as a broad wall in a broader space than what you have does seem to go against the community standard. That's just my personal opinion.
Really noted. Thank you, sir.
Any other board members?
Yes, Dave Ledyard, I have a comment. When I first looked at this from the standpoint of the staff report, because it was smaller looking at it on paper, I drove over during my lunch hour today to drive by, and I was having a little trouble finding the right street till I got lined up right. And then as I turned to go down Fairway Circle, the very first thing I saw was the large orange side of the house. And that is a very bright orange. And my first thought was, I didn't have the feeling it was an accent. I felt like a very large portion of the house had been painted. And then moving as I continued on, the window insets are very bright also. And as people know, I'm not the most artistic guy, so I usually don't make any comments on artistic things. But when I think of accent, to me, it means something that kind of blends in with the existing building and it adds something. I really, between that large wall and the other, I felt overwhelmed looking at it. And I really felt like not so much an accent, but that I felt like the orange was sort of stuck on, both under the windows and the other. I just didn't, usually to me, when I hear accent, I think of like maybe the trim around the house, the eaves, something like that. You know, the door is a little brighter back there. And it looked to me like maybe there's some red around the door and then an orange door. I didn't have any problem with that. But I just really felt kind of overwhelmed. And the way the little cul-de-sac lays out, I drove around the cul-de-sac a couple of times so I could get a view from the neighbors across the street as well as coming in. And then later in the afternoon, I wanted to get another look at it. So on my way home tonight, I drove by again and I had the same feeling. I really think it sounds like if some of the board members are okay with the window insets, which are much smaller, if the applicant could agree to paint that wall, it doesn't have to be the same color as the bricks, but something that would be more muted, because that really, it's not as big as a billboard, but it reminded me of a billboard in the sense of just the way it's sitting there in the color scheme. So that was my first thought. As I pulled up to it, I did feel kind of overwhelmed, and I want to thank staff for spending a little time and providing the actual, part of the ordinance and the statute, so that we can really, at least, since we're talking about colors, which are kind of subjective, that we could talk about. But anyway, those are my thoughts. To me, it didn't feel like accents. I didn't get that feeling with it. It felt more like it was sort of stuck onto the building.
That was a very thoughtful answer, David. Thank you so much. There's actually, in real estate, there's actually a definition for accent. So it's not something that you have to try and consider. It's if you look at the profile of the house, if it's less than 30%, that's considered an accent color. So if you're driving up the side of the house.
I think that's kind of a subjective idea. Usually it's an element of the architecture as well, and a smaller element usually. So
the number's 30%.
Thank you. Any other board members have questions?
Yeah, I think I have a question, if that's all right.
Yes.
Kind of, I guess, more of a pragmatic thought or question for Jason is, I want to make sure I fully understand our city's color palette. This clearly does not meet that criteria. Is that correct? Or
Yes, I will clarify that that is correct. The reason that this application was brought before the design review board is because the approved design review board established an approved color palette. The step color doesn't exist in similarity to anything on it, which is a pretty broad palette. But again, of course, it's earth tone, more so earth tone based. But you're going to have blues, beiges, oranges, rusts, yellows, many different hues of the spectrum, but they don't err as you start to trend into the boldness of this color. Now, the provision for the accent is where we bring it to the board for approval. And what we really have here is just a difference of opinion on how we consider and apply an accent to the mid-century modern home. I was going to ask the chair, who, I mean, I don't know if the applicant recognizes that the chair is an architect as well. If there were any opportunities that you saw that if we were able to agree to at least meet the wall that's in question, would there still be an opportunity that you see on that wall without designing for I understand you don't design for the applicant, but do you see an opportunity for them to still have that kind of expression of color as an accent or a trim that makes sense of mid-century modern, so they don't feel kind of like, we took the whole wall away? I see Mr. Rios's point that he wants to have the splash, but I see a beam here, which I've seen used as an accent. I've seen some other things. We obviously don't want to candy stripe this thing. That's not mid-century modern. But I just didn't know if there was an opportunity where they could still do something. And because this is an interesting area without like just overwhelming the space, which is clearly what I'm hearing from the board is not being supported. Is there an alternative to ask the applicant? And just I just want to give the board the opportunity to respond first, to put that out there.
And I'll clarify a little bit. This is not a pure mid-century modern house. It has mid-century elements, but it's not a pure mid-century modern house. It's maybe a mid-century ranch house with some modern elements. And our point is that a lot of it, trying to be a little bit cohesive in the neighborhoods, not just, you don't have to blend in totally, but just to be so discordant here is I think what the neighbors are objecting to, and anybody else who might drive by and just think of it as a discordant tone. That some things where you might bring in some other bright colors, maybe with accessories, maybe some lawn furniture or umbrellas or something, stuff like that, that are seen as accessories and accent colors and not as a big element of one side of the house. I mean, in toto, yeah, it's a small piece of the house, but on that particular elevation, it's a pretty big one. And with that bright of a color, it's a pretty loud one.
I appreciate the thoughtfulness that everyone has contributed to the input. With you clearly expressing that it's that rear carport, which again is less than 30%. I think you guys have put a lot of forethought and care into your answers. What if we come to a compromise, even before having to put it to a vote, so that you guys don't have to be the bearers of bad news necessarily? What if we paint that carport garage side just the orangiest color that's on the color palette that's already approved? How's that?
Mr. Rios, this is Ron Claire. I don't mean to interrupt, but I definitely think then we're turning the house into like a mosaic, and we're going to have multiple colors all over, and that kind of goes against what we're looking for as well. I'd be comfortable with a bright color on the door, but I think the other areas just take away. And I know that's a personal opinion, but that's what we're here for. I just think the orange is so stark. I did the same thing as David did, and we drove down the road to take a look at it, and it really does pop. There's no doubt it catches your eye.
Wait, I think I misunderstood you. Did you say that now a pre-approved color that's already on the color palette is not being approved? Is that what you're saying, sir?
No, sir, that's not what I said. If you
Okay.
you mentioned just going the one side of the carport instead of doing it all. If you picked one color that was on the approved palette and then painted those boards on the approved palette, I don't think anyone on the board would have a problem. But if you're just trying to take one piece of it and then leave the other colors the bright orange, then that's not acceptable.
The other thing is that it's a pre-approved for staff's benefit, but colors can all within, the palette is huge. If you've taken a look, there's a lot of colors. And it doesn't mean that every color is suitable for every house or every neighborhood. So it's still at staff discretion to review that and see if it needs to be reviewed by design review. And that includes zoning or any sort of zoning people that are zoning enforcement people.
It sounded like the concern was the carport wall.
It is, but also that it just needs to, we're asking you to tone it down and blend it in with the existing slump block, maybe the white, maybe bring the white back down that way. That's the white over the board.
I think I'm more of an optimistic, positive person. So let me try and work towards a solution. Okay. So the wall that's on the carport, I am offering to change the color to a paint color that's approved by the committee already. I hear what you're saying. You don't want it to be the orangiest orange. I'll try and get it to blend with the white, the gray, or the sunblock. Would that be satisfactory?
If you can find a color on the palette, but we would ask that you paint all the accent colors the same, not just leave the orange on the front door and then change it to another color on the side, etc. And again, this is just something staff can review if it seems appropriate.
I'm hearing different things. Mr. Sanks, I think you clearly articulated a lot of different things. Are we talking about the same thing?
Well, we have the staff, we have the color palette that's been approved by the design review board so that we don't bring every paint job of every home in the city to the design review board. Now, what the chair is saying is that even so, if a proposal comes forward to staff, which is where it starts, and discordance between what's being proposed, if we were to just kind of cherry pick various colors from the color palette and create some sort of a random collage, there would be concern that there's no cohesiveness of design. And I don't think that's the intent of yourself or. And
that's not what that's not what we're proposing.
And that now I do have the color palette available for viewing, but I remind everybody that everybody's screens show the colors slightly differently. So we would actually show you the real colors at City Hall, which is one reason why it's not generally shared through PDF, because it can be kind of misleading depending on what printer you're using. It tends to show a bit more brightly, if you will, when it's digitally depicted on a computer screen. So I would suggest that if you wanted to use one of the colors on the palette, go ahead and propose what it is that you'd like to do. And what the chair is suggesting is that board member Claire is suggesting is that there's a cohesive design consideration, that the front's not eye-popping one color and then you're doing something different over there, and then the rest of the house is white, the rest of the house is slump block, so that it looks like something pulled together, which I imagine is what you're going to try to do. And I know you're trying to get to consensus as well. The board's just saying
We're saying different things.
The board is saying that this is a no-go in terms of this broad face wall, tone it down. And
correct.
Well, can I pull something off the palette? Sure, but make sure that it all makes sense with the rest of it.
Yep, exactly. Exactly. Well, that's not what the chair was saying. She was saying that all the colors go from the front. We were talking about just the back of the carport. So I want to be very clear about that.
If you were interested in that one wall being a neutral color in line with the colors that are already on your wall, the slump block color or the white trim or the gray, that would be fine. But if you just want to pick a random color from our palette, it's going to have to be re-reviewed again.
That's exactly what I was asking, ma'am. Thank you.
Yes.
Okay, that was simpler than, okay.
So one of the colors that's already the slump block color, the white trim or the gray trim, I mean, we could all understand that. And that's in keeping with his photos from before, the body of the house being pretty neutral and most
We would shoot for the
usually
slump block
white
color.
or stone or natural colors, and then a pop of color. And so the body of the house tends to be very neutral, or stone, or some natural material. So, and then in this, I mean, consider your neighborhood also. There's a lot of slump block homes. The slump block itself can be painted, but I guess we're just trying to come to a solution. If you want to pick a color, it needs to be kind of in the neutral tones to blend in with the house more, so it just doesn't stand out as much as your front door or the window insets.
Yes, ma'am. I can put a bow on this. So I'm the director of solutions for a company called Morgan Solutions. That's why I'm solution oriented. For the side wall with the carport, we're going to try and shoot for a color that's as close to that natural slump black color as possible.
That would be,
How's that?
that would be perfect. Thank you.
Thank you. All right.
So, is there a motion by one of the board members to stipulate we would approve painting of the color of the slump block, or as close as possible? Or if it's necessary for us to take action? Members?
Can I ask a question real quick to
Yes.
clarify? But the front panels would remain the same accent color in this scenario?
I would be
This
okay
scenario,
with
yes, ma'am.
that.
Okay. I'll make him.
Patrick's door is gone. It's all red, right? It's all
St.
red.
Patrick's Day.
Yeah, see, this is all red, correct?
It's all one color.
Burgundy red, yeah. Okay, got it.
Those three areas are all the same color, correct?
We're going to get a new door that's muted and that's totally going to blend in. That's not going to be an issue whatsoever going forward. So
Oh, the door will change?
the door will change. It's going to be simplified. Yes.
Oh, okay. I was just curious because we depicted here like many of the doors in the mid-century model. Right?
It would, no, it would be way more muted than that. It's going the opposite direction.
I mean, I know it's
Side-
not a
side note.
flat.
This is my wife. This is Mrs. Rios.
Hi. So the
Hi.
front door, I mean, that's a decoration on there. The front door is a light orange color, which is also pretty loud, but the new door that we're getting is a muted like sandstone color. And that's in 10 weeks it'll be installed.
Okay. So, board members, what's our,
Susan, if I could just ask one more question, just for clarity.
sure.
Everything is painted the one color. There's not multiple colors that we're dealing with here.
All of the siding is exactly the same color. Correct.
So the entryway as it sits right now, I know you're changing the door, but in the front inserts where the trees were, those three pieces are all the same color. They're all the same orange.
Yes. Yes,
Okay,
sir.
Thank you.
It's it's really strange. Even in person, with the shadows, even if you're standing there, it looks very, very strange, depending on what time of day it is.
Thank you for clarifying.
Yes, sir.
These are the best pictures.
Okay, would someone like to make a motion or staff to, I guess I don't know what the resolution is for this. We move to approve the owner painting that side wall to match the slump block, is that it? And then allowing the front pieces to remain the accent color that they already are.
I'll make that motion.
Okay.
I'll second.
Okay, is there any need for discussion? So all in favor, say aye.
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 Aye. I can.
No.
No.
Any nays?
Nay.
Okay. So I didn't get a count. So it's 3. Do we have, we have more than, I don't know how many we need for majority?
Well, we could take account, but I believe we have 4
Okay.
ayes
Ron?
and 1 nay.
Okay, so it's just 1 nay. Okay, so we'll pass that then. So thank you for coming to our meeting. As we agreed, the side will be painted as close to the slump block color as you can, and then the front accents will be allowed to remain.
Thank you so much for having us. I'm sorry it took so long, but
Thank you.
I really appreciate your thoughtfulness. We're blessed and honored to live in this neighborhood. We want to represent you all well.
Thank you. Thank you. Have a good night.
Thank
So,
you.
Bye.
Moving forward, our next item. Design plans for an addition remodel proposed for 104 Vista Paseo. And Jason, do you want to give us your staff report on this?
Oh, certainly. Thank you, Chair. And I guess in the agenda, it's written as a remodel. I prepared the report slightly differently. Design plans for what I refer to as a garage extension. I may need to get some clarification if there's a full remodel that's proposed. So for 104 West Vista Paseo Drive, clearly you can see this Google Street View photo of the home there. Based on the design plans provided, it appears the designer's taken some extra care to emulate the home's unique, again, mid-century modern architecture by complementing the existing garage. Now, please correct me if I'm wrong. I Googled to try to figure out what kind of roof line that's called. I just called it a wedge. I don't know if it's a wedge, it's a shed, I'm not sure, but as you can see, it's a shed, okay, a shed roof line. And what they just really intended to do is bring that forward approximately, I think, 10 feet, and then also extend it out to, if you're looking at the home to the left, an additional 2 feet. So give them a larger garage space, a little bit of workspace. They can continue to meet the required setbacks of the zoning district, so that there's no concern that they're violating the setbacks. They've got the room on the lot to do so and make the garage bigger. It's really going to look like this garage just brought forward with a little bit of extra on the side. Staff had a couple concerns as rendered. I really don't know if this was just kind of put together in a program and the home turned brown and the garage door turned white, because up here the garage door is brown and the house is white, and this is a really relatively, I mean, this is an attractive home, lots of contrast, light body, deep brown accents, wood accents, windows, etc. And it would be staff's hope that including even the vent, and I believe there's a window that's on the side that's over here somewhere, be left to remain to continue to provide the articulation that the home currently enjoys. Perhaps the applicant could just confirm that that's the intent. And then that said, staff supports the application as filed should they match the color materials of the home and keep those accents as in the garage door as on the current home. I'd be happy to answer questions.
Is the homeowner or the applicant present?
Yes, I'm here.
Okay, are you the homeowner?
Yes, I am.
Okay, did you understand Jason's questions about?
Yes, I did it on my little punch home design thing, and
Yeah.
I was just trying to get, yes, actually my original plan was just to show my wife that, but then when I found out I had to put it in the review, I just took pictures of the screenshots, because she has no way to visually picture anything. And the way the drawings look, you can hardly tell what it is or where it goes with the limited amount of pictures on the plans. So I just drew that up, and I did it quickly so I could figure out how I wanted to look. But yes, it was going to match everything. So, and it's going to be taller. Currently, that's a 7-foot door, and the only way to make that any bigger is to raise it up. So that's why I made the extension just a foot taller than the existing house, so I can put an 8-foot door, 8-foot tall door, and it would match all the current layout the way it looks. And it makes it easier to seam everything together too, because I get more roof space, and then I can just meet up the old with the new and not have to worry about seaming and matching things.
Okay. I had one question and concerns the shed that comes in the front that you're showing, just on the addition part, how it's going to die into the existing house. That part, yes.
Yeah, I gave her a couple pictures of all three angles. So that shed was going to go above the existing shed. I mean, the existing shed that's where the street light is, so that there wouldn't be any problem.
So does that go all the way back to the clear stories, or does it
Yeah.
start and stop?
No, it hits where the vent is on the existing house. It would just be, so there's a clear story that's in the middle more so. So instead of having the big tall, like the existing one it's like 18 or 20 feet tall, the shed part, the high part of the shed. So instead of having a big wall like that, I just wanted to make the shed go in the middle. So it's almost an overlapping peak, so to speak. I have another.
There's a rendering of it in the
Better
packet.
rendering. Can you share your?
I've opened the files, Chair, and I'm about to stop share on the Word document, and then I'm going to share the screen which you're asking for. Give it 1 second. I have it pulled up right now. Sorry, I'm just toggling through files. Let me know when you can see.
Yeah.
There we go.
So these are the additional documents. You can start to see where he's talking about where the sheds and things will start to tie into the existing residence with the 10-foot projection forward.
Okay, so it looks like it doesn't go all the way back to the back wall where the windows, the clear story windows are. It looks like it stops at the old where the garage stopped. Okay.
The existing fascia is still there.
Okay. Yeah, that was my question. It's like
Sorry.
that's gonna be a tricky frame for you. Sorry.
And Chair, I have the other angles of the home. I know with its unique roof lines, you can see this. Here's the window I was referring to that we were hoping. I don't know if the applicant can clarify if they're intending to fill that.
Yeah,
in.
that'll stay there. Yeah, I don't want to spend any more.
Will you be bringing the roof vent forward as well to the front?
I can. Yeah, well, it needs to have a vent, so I was going to try and figure out something to.
And this indicates the additional height that he's referred to as well as the bump out. And then, of course, this is the same picture you've already seen, but here's another picture that better shows what's going on from this angle.
Okay. Yeah, that's going to be a tricky little area. Make sure you get the rain off your roof.
Yeah, I was trying to make it as easy as possible and make it look like the rest of the house.
Yeah.
Can I ask a question? I'm just curious. Also, the renderings just show like a double hung or single hung window, but you're not actually intending to change that I don't know, the bay window, or what would that be called?
No, that's fine. Dining room window, yeah, that's staged. Like I said, I just did it in my little program, and I didn't want to spend 4 days doing all the stuff that I'm not even touching.
Yeah.
And Chair and board members, I have the architectural sheets, but they're really like construction sheets rather than the elevation renderings. So I can show those to you if you want to see the technical sheets, which are the beginning.
I think I'm clear with the actual photos. Any other questions for the staff or applicant? And then I guess the staff already brought up the color question. You're going to stay in the same tones that you have, or do you intend to?
No, it all match.
Okay.
Yeah, my wife wouldn't let me do anything other than matching everything.
Okay. Does anyone have any other questions for the applicant or for staff? If not, would someone propose a motion?
Yeah, may I make a motion that we approve the garage expansion at 104 West Vista Paseo Drive based off of staff's recommendations?
A second?
I'll second.
Thank you. Any further discussion? All in favor say aye.
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 Aye. Any nays? None. Okay, it passes. Thank you.
Thank you.
Okay. So next, design plans for roof-mounted solar panel installation proposed for 690 East Fairway Drive. So Jason, you want to give us your report on that?
Yes, thank you, Chair and board members, members of the public. I believe, Pam, do we have the applicant in attendance tonight? I know this was continued from April 1st because I don't believe we have an attendee.
Yes, I believe I saw her. Yes.
Sorry to put you on the spot like that. I just thought, well, maybe we'll start with that after last month. So we'll go ahead and introduce the project. Of course, it's a roof-mounted solar panel installation on a pitched roof. And so for members of the public that aren't maybe as familiar with the code requirements, there are 4 requirements that should be met when installing the solar panel installation. They shall be in a flat configuration parallel to the roof plane and appear to be an integral part of the building. It should be configured in a regular quadrangular shape and aligned with the existing roof edges. Shall be positioned within the field of the roof plane with proportional margin of roof between the panel and the roof edges. And the surface of a solar energy collector panel should not be more than 10 inches above the surface of the pitched roof. Clearly, the 4 conditions are intended to allow, obviously, solar panel installations to occur, but to be done so in a manner so that they integrate as best as possible with the home's roof lines and to be, kind of hug the roof as best as possible. So I took a couple of street views, or maybe they were provided by the applicant, of the existing residence on Fairway Drive. It's on a corner, so you're going to have Fairway Drive and Villanueva. So here's the Fairway Drive and here's the Villanueva. And street views or the photos. We really are bringing this to the board because we had some concerns about, first of all, the home will be quite visible. The one benefit of the home is that it's got a relatively flat roof pitch. So with the panels hugging the roof line, they won't be quite as visible just due to the relatively low pitch. But as we've discussed before, we've done this on many applications where we start to get concerned when we start flipping the orientation of the panels, horizontal to vertical, to horizontal to vertical, kind of like piecing them in, if you will. And we try to square everything up as best we can so they don't catch the eye quite as much as like a sawtooth sort of installation might appear. The staff would like the applicant to present to the DRB what their thoughts or their options are on where it's possible that they could square some of these items up. We recognize there's a couple of roof vents occurring here, so you'll see some gaps. But really, when you look at it, it's when we see these horizontal and the orientation start flipping all around, and we get concerned about how that'll fit from both street corners because it will be visible. We also would need to ensure, I don't know that I had it in the exhibits, that there is not a tilt of the panels on the roof of the residence. Because of it being such a low pitched roof, we wanted to make sure that they weren't indeed adding a degree of tilt, which would make them, like we would see sometimes on a flat roof residence that has a parapet to screen the tilted panels. In this case, we would have no screening whatsoever, so they would still need to be flat, even though the roof is relatively low pitch. So with that, we would recommend that denial is filed until we can get clarification from the applicant on if there's a tilt and if they can square up some of these panels and keep the same orientation of the panels. So with that, I turn it over, of course, to the board for questions and for the applicant for clarification.
Okay. Jason, can you put the actual application materials up there for us to see? Yes. And then if the applicant would like to address what Mr. Sanks had to say.
Can you hear me?
Yes.
Okay, perfect. I was just worried that you can hear me. Okay, we've run this through numerous different times. We had to run things through Aurora. Both the program we use as Aurora to put the best productivity for that customer. We do a product guarantee for what we sold the customer and what we signed as far as their, application. This area of the roof was where we found it best for the production that we guaranteed we could do. I know it's not perfect as far as the orientation going a couple different ways. However, there are plains, valleys, peaks. We have a 3-foot, fire that we have to keep off of. This is literally, we've tried this numerous different ways, and this is literally the best we could come up with. I know as far as aesthetics, there is a tree in front that's going to block people, a lot of it, from being seen. I just, with having to stay on that portion of the roof, I literally am out of places to put this.
Okay. I guess the other two issues were it's not tilted, it's flush.
No, it won't be any tilt. It'll be flush to the roof, correct.
And then the conduits, nothing's visible on the roof. No conduits running across the roof.
That is correct. There would be one conduit run on the back. If you scroll up a little bit, I think you could see it on the picture of the site. Right there on the left side. That yes, sir. That would be a conduit run. Right where your mouse is going.
Yeah.
That green line, that's a conduit run, correct.
Okay, and so the other green lines also, and they're running across the roof?
That one right there would be yes. And I mean, we could paint it to match, to get it as, close to the roof color as possible, but it needs to tie into that existing service entrance that's in the back.
Now, before we've had people tuck them up under the eave, if there is an eave, I'm gonna go back, rather than running them across the surface of the roof.
Mm-hmm.
That's where a lot of solar companies do. They just tuck them up under the eaves and run it that way, so it's not just a line going across the roof. It's
Chair, if I may, you're suggesting then if they're not going to basically drill through the roof and put the conduit underneath, where we've done on other residences, you're suggesting perhaps they just tuck it underneath the existing eave on the side of the house rather than running across the top of the roof.
yeah, up high and tucked into the corner of the eave. That way it can be clamped and painted to match, and not as noticeable as just running it on the roof.
I think for the applicant's benefit, just so they understand, this is very common that we don't have conduit running across the roof. It's generally designed in a way that they either go through the roof and they do it inside the attic, or they'll run it under the eave where possible. If there's not really an attic space, that it's reasonable to do that in.
Okay. I mean, I can do that. I can do an attic run. I can run or make it so it's through the attic. If there's an adequate space to get it through the attic, then I have no problem doing that through the attic. I don't think there is much space. I'm not seeing it. If you go down one picture, I'm not seeing space. I mean, my guys are pretty small, but I don't see there being, there isn't going to be anything for us to get through the roof. And yeah, we can take it across and tuck it under the eave and then run it across to the back. That's not a problem.
Chair, may I ask a question?
Yes.
For the applicant? And you may not have an answer for this, and sorry if it's a little bit, too tough of a question, or I'm not Mr. Solar guy, so I don't know much about this, but okay. I'm curious, like, what's the difference of output that you would get versus having all the panels on that back roof line?
Oh, it's almost half.
Okay.
We put them back there. It dropped it in half. I have to stay within 5% to keep our contract that the customer signed. So we're right at that with how we have it on the front. I mean, if there was a different way that I could move two panels for them to be the same way, we would have done it already. It just doesn't fit with the vents, the 3-foot clearance. There's just little tiny missing pieces to the whole situation to make it so it doesn't work as nicely as I would have liked myself to.
Chair and Vice Chair, if you don't mind me asking and clarifying to the applicant, can you please advise the clearance of the panels on the low-pitched roof and the total height to the top of panel between the existing roof and the top of panel, so they get an idea of how much mass will be shown? You know what I'm saying? Like, usually we have we'll have a dimension. These panels appear to be quite flat, but I have no way. I don't really know if they're 2 inches off the roof or 5 inches off the roof, or what's the total height of the panel array? Do you know?
Hang on, I'm trying to see right now if I have it. I know flush mounted, it consists of the rails. No, I don't have that. Maybe a couple inches. I want to say maybe, I don't have it in front of me, to be
Okay.
honest with you.
I just asked because oftentimes with our applications, we'll have a little diagram that'll show our total height. I just want to make
I
sure. that-
usually do, but I think this is an asphalt roof, correct?
It appears to be from the elevations, yes.
So if it was a clay tile roof or S tile or W tile, then there's usually a point or a point of attachment that has like a barrel on it that would make it stand up a little bit higher from the ground or from the roof. I'm sorry. With it being the asphalt, it's pretty flush. I mean, it's going to be right to that roof.
So you have the mounting rails, which are probably like a couple inches, and then the panel
Right.
itself is probably 2 or 3 inches.
Correct. So I'd say no more than maybe 5 inches that it's going to be up off, the height wise.
Okay.
If it was tile, it would be higher, but because of the fact that it is we say asphalt shingle, it'll maybe 5 inches top.
I think my challenge on this, Chair, is just, I don't know, I don't feel like we've ever approved one with the roof line facing the street, having the panels in both directions.
I think we just saw that last applicant with the color issue. If you looked at their roof panels, I think they did have like 2 horizontal. I'm not even sure that it's what we
I was
approved.
trying to pull too. I saw that.
So I don't know if that's something we approved or if it just got installed that way. So
I don't recall us doing that or,
Yeah.
approving
Chair.
having them both angles, but.
Excuse me, Chair, it did come through the board. It was approved by the board. The other address.
yeah. And that's how it was installed. That's because we saw the picture and like, oh, must have, yeah. So it's, yeah. We're trying to make it as regular as possible, and you've got zigzaggy edges and I know it's a valley, but it's fairly low. What about the 2 on the back? It's hard. You could move them to the front side. Seems like they would fit. And then
Are you suggesting here?
yeah, those two random ones that are by themselves.
I could probably put one of those 2 randoms that are by themselves. I'm looking at it. I might be able to fit one right above where you have the hand,
Yeah.
and then one right next to it where that green line. Yep.
Yeah.
I might be able to do them right there. I think we did run it through that way. I can definitely run it through that way again in the morning, because that's where when I've looked at this, that's what I've brought to their attention of trying to do it that way. This just was what our production guarantee kept us under the 5% by doing it like this. I think by me putting them those other 2 places put us at 6. So I can definitely do my best to get that. I mean, again, you're not really going to see it, but I get it. I understand.
I was trying to reduce the number of arrays and
Mm-hmm.
also looking at ways to square up that one that's missing.
So I think personally, my only concern is there is some conduit shown that I think will have to be on the roof, right? I mean, we talked about that one running under the eaves, but what about there's 3 other ones?
Yeah, there's no getting around that part. I mean,
Well, usually there
especially,
are a lot of companies run it underneath the panels and then go down and back up, go down through the roof and back up again. There's not a lot of space, but that's generally how most of them are doing it.
No, I understand, and we do that like that every day, but if you look at the roof, there doesn't look to be attic space in any of these areas where I can have somebody climb through and do an attic run.
And if it's just a stick frame, there is no space unless you can get in between a roof joist.
Yeah, we can get them, we can roll things as, under as best as we can, but unfortunately there are a couple areas that you're gonna have to punch through.
Well, if you take
I mean,
out those
the
two lonely ones back there, that eliminates that conduit.
Yes. I can do that. I can see about doing that.
And then the other, as long as they're painted to match the roof, that they're not noticeable. And then the big long one, take that to the eave and run it up underneath the eaves to the service.
Yeah.
So, do any other board members have any questions, concerns? Would someone like to propose a motion? Or if you see any other suggestions? Motion, please. From someone.
I'll make a motion that we approve this application with the qualification that that they try to move those two panels to at least alleviate that one run, and then also it makes it a little bit more consistent in its spacing, and then additionally also run the long conduit along and under the roof line.
Yeah, I can have that done morning.
Yeah, and then all conduit painted to match the to blend in.
Got it.
Okay, I have a motion. Do I have a second? Did everybody
I'll
leave?
second.
Okay, we have a motion and a second. Is there further discussion? Okay, all in favor, please say aye.
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 All opposed? None? Okay, thank you. It's approved with the stipulations.
Okay, I will. Do you want me to have it redrawn and sent it back into you guys?
Yeah, staff can handle the revision.
Okay, I'll get it back into Pam tomorrow morning. That's fine.
Thank you. Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you, Sherlyn.
All right.
Thank you.
Next up, design plans for an addition remodel proposed for 605 Bird Lane. Jason, do you have your staff report for that?
Oh, I think I'm in the wrong spot. Yes, Chair. Let me find Bird Lane. Oh, here we go. I'll come back to the other one. I apparently have it out of order on the report. My apologies. Okay, design plans for garage extension at 605 East Bird Lane. The applicant for the project is seeking to extend their home's garage by adding a third bay. It would be a single door third bay garage to the right of the existing two-car garage that you can see here in the photo very clearly. The applicant marked, where the addition would go. The intention is to recess and install a third garage, and then flare the driveway out to provide access to the new garage. So the existing street view appears as follows. As rendered, the garage will appear as follows. So they'll be bringing these architectural elements that you see here. They're just going to be replicating it in a recessed fashion for the third bay over there, as well as replicating the colors, materials, and the design of the garage door for the single bay garage that they'd be adding.
Okay.
So
the screen's not sharing, or
it might help if I fix that. I'm going off on a tangent here and I'm not sharing. My apologies. I stopped sharing the PDF and I'm back to the Word document. Okay, so here's the street view. Can you see it now?
Yep, and I think we've seen this project for the variance, right? We're a little bit familiar with this one.
Yes, that's correct.
All right, and so you can see here the architecture has been replicated for the third car bay. which is recessed further back. And then they would flare the driveway out over in this location to provide access. And due to its recessed design, replication of architectural details of the existing home architecture, we find that it'll add value to the home and the neighborhood in general. We've seen this before. And so we're recommending approval of the application, subject to the exhibits provided, and reiterating our standard condition that the colors, building materials, and finishes shall match those of the existing residence.
Thank you. Is the applicant or homeowner present?
Yeah, Glenn Forstner here. I'm just representing the owner.
Okay, hi. Anything you want to add to Jason's? Sorry to keep.
No, everything like he says, everything's going to match. Just an assurance there will be no orange accents on this one. But we're just blending in the colors, and it's recessed back both for architectural look, and also the electric service panel is right around the corner on that right-hand side. So the garage addition, which is about 13 by 20, fits in there very nicely without having to relocate anything else that's on the side of the house.
Okay, thank you. Any other questions for the applicant?
Chair, may I make a motion?
Sure, thank you.
I'd like to make a motion that we take staff's recommendation and approve the application on Bird Lane, and with everything matching as stated in the application.
I have a motion. Can I have a second?
Second.
Okay. Any further discussion? All in favor, say aye.
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 Aye. Any opposed? None. Okay, it's approved. Thank you.
Great, thank you.
And then moving on, design plans for an addition remodel proposed for 115 Cercado Lane. And Jason, you want to give your report on this one?
Yes, thank you, Chair. Board members, and I believe the applicant is in attendance. I spoke with him. With 115 East Cercado Lane, the applicant, the city staff, of course, as usual, wants to work with homeowners that are interested in remodeling their homes. And we received this application later in the week. So we tried to process it as quickly as we could to try to make the agenda. I will say that the exhibits provided and presented to the board tonight are not, I would say, perhaps 100% complete. So I had to have a conversation with the owner to really kind of discuss what is their overall project intention with the home. So if you look, I can toggle to the full set of plans you've got, but I want to go over what they want to do based on what I'm showing on the screen. So you have a slump block home. You can see it has arched windows, which are typical of the design of the period. And if you look at the floor plan, you see there's a proposed extension in the back, livable area addition that would occur back here behind this tree. The home zigzags a bit. They're going to square it off and have livable area and a covered patio. And there's a note that's in the plans that says they'll add stucco later, and which confused me because I'm thinking, what's it going to be? And if it's not stucco, is it going to be slump block, or what's going on? So it prompted a phone call with the applicant, and then I started to notice some other things like what's going on. The front doors moved, the arched windows are gone. So it appeared to be that there was a lot more happening than initially thought in the application. It's not just a livable addition and a patio. It's actually basically a complete exterior remodel, which is the intent of the applicant. So what they're wanting to do is, you can see now the entry is right here. Their interest is to bring forward a new entry, which is going to add a new roofline element right here and bring forward with 2 columns. And they want to stucco over all of the slump block and replace the arched windows with rectangular windows, and just reestablish a new architectural motif and design for the home. The addition would fall into play with the home exterior also being stucco, following the roof lines, and it's in the rear of the home. And you can see that in the plot plan and the floor plan within the exhibits provided by the applicant. And again, I can toggle over to those. We received the color tones today from the applicant, which are all earth tones, light tans, almost mimicking the existing color palette of the home now. I don't know, Pam, if we sent that out to the entire design review board, or if you'd like me to pull it up from the email, but we did ask them to advise us what color they wanted to paint the house after they stuck with it.
I did not get to send it out. I don't know if you can show it.
Yeah, let me just give me one. If you give me just one moment, team, I can pull that up really fast. It's just going to take me a second to pull it up, and then I'm going to do a quick stop share on the staff report, and then I'll toggle over to the color palette that was provided by the applicant today. So we're kind of sorry, we're doing a little storytelling here as we try to explain what the overall ultimate intention of the elevations would be. So on the front of the home, there'd be an interest, and maybe the owner can clarify. I believe the body color would likely be this lighter color, or perhaps it's this tan. I'm not sure, to be honest. And then there would be a stone veneer added to the 2 porch columns. That's approximately 30 to 36 inches tall, which would have maybe a stucco pop out. You would want to mimic this. This is not the actual home. This is an example of another home he's worked on and remodeled. So the intention would be to do a somewhat subdued, stacked stone ledge column treatment, a portional column treatment, and the rest of them would be stuccoed, and the entire home would be repainted in these earth tones. This was provided earlier today. So I'll stop share this. I'll have it available if you need it, and then I'll go back to the staff report if I may. Give me 1 second. All right, so that would explain kind of any confusion you might have in your packet information, that it's not just a livable addition on the back of the house with the patio, but it's actually a full exterior remodel, relocation of the front entry door, replacement of all of the front windows to mimic this. And it appears that these 2 little windows here would just simply be eliminated, but perhaps the applicant can clarify if they would be putting windows back in. So with that said, I was unable to really make a recommendation because I wasn't 100% certain of everything being presented. If the applicant can further clarify and describe what's, fill in the blanks, perhaps we can get to a recommendation for approval. It's just the exhibits were not quite complete, so it's hard to make a recommendation. And I apologize in advance. I know the board likes to have a full packet, but again, staff does try to work with homeowners and bring them to the board as expeditiously as possible. If it needs to be punted to the next DRB meeting with revised elevations, we certainly understand, but we wanted to bring it forward as a courtesy to the homeowner. So I'd be happy to answer questions and also entertain any additional details from the applicant if they can provide them.
Okay, thank you, Jason. The homeowner applicant present?
Yes, I am.
Okay, can you answer some of the questions that Mr. Sanks brought up? Or
Yeah.
An overview of your project?
Yeah, I apologize for this not being as good as it could be, but they tried to fit me in real quick so I could get something here. And this is what we ended up with. But what I'm basically doing is trying to completely remodel this house. It's got several problems within it, so I'm trying to do it all at once. Those 2 windows that they're talking about, I will be squaring off over at the garage. That's on the garage itself.
So those will stay, but they'll just be squared up.
Pardon?
Those will stay, but just be squared up.
That is correct.
Okay.
The front, which will be coming out, I've taken off of other places that I've seen in the city. It makes a more dramatic entrance. The stucco is to take it out of the 80s and see if I can update it as far as looks goes for the neighborhood, because everything else right around it pretty much is slump block. So I'm just trying to update the house. I mean, I don't have to. If somebody objects to that, I could bring the columns up in slump block. But I would much rather update the complete house.
Okay.
Some of the roof is being raised, okay, to make for a 10-foot and 12-foot ceilings as an update. And that's basically it, trying to just completely update the whole house.
Is so you're bringing out kind of a drive-through? Is it going to be like a
Oh, no, it's not a drive-through. It's just a dressed-up entrance. Okay, the A that you see on the right, okay, will go away, and there will be a larger one. You see the column where that's at? That's holding that. The column will be 2 columns out about 2 feet more. They will not protrude past the driveway. They'll come out close to the driveway.
Here, if you'd like to see the site plan or the plot plan, I could bring it up on the screen.
Sure.
Just give me 1 second, please. You can see the 2 columns right here.
Yeah.
Try to zoom in a little bit.
Okay. And then for the applicant, the colors that he presented, those are, can you clarify which the colors you're
Yes, the light tan or the real light color will be the base of the house, the body of the house. Okay, then there's a third color there for the pop outs. Okay, just to accent the pop outs. And the color is close, but not exactly the same as, well, you can see it up here. The pop outs is in the middle coloring. Right. And then the stone has some of that coloring within it. And all this matches up to the dark brown of the roofing tiles. The roofing tiles will stay the same color.
So when you stucco over, you're going to add pop outs, or are you going to?
I will add two pop outs, one on each column. And in the back, the patio will be increasing. I will have the same pop out on the columns in the back.
Oh, when I say pop outs, I'm usually talking about like around the windows. You're not doing that.
No.
Okay, thank you.
No, that's only on the columns.
Yeah.
The pop outs are existing in the slump block, and I will keep those where they're at, but they will be stuccoed and be the pop out color.
So the pop outs are right now have arches. You're not going to keep the arches.
No, the arches, I'm just going to square them off, but I'm going to try and keep, as you can see with the normal picture, it shows the slump block comes out almost 4 to 5 inches, but it's in an arch. I'm going to change that to a square.
I'm gonna have to toggle, sorry, back to the staff report. I don't think I have the street view inside the packet. Apologies for making everybody busy. Here we go. You're talking about these pop outs that are existing when the slump block.
Yeah, yeah.
Correct.
So is the concern, Chair, that you'd like to see some articulation with the windows so we don't end up with windows?
No, that doesn't bother me. That sometimes the pop outs, and especially when they're painted a different color, brings us back to the 70s. So I'm not sure if you're running to update it, that would actually do the trick.
If that is what it looks like, I will paint over them. I'm not shooting for the 70s.
Yeah. Yeah, it's just pop-outs are tricky on when you're changing the materials, so you're stuck going over the slump block.
That's correct.
So then the color that you do, if you do a different color on the pop-outs, that's a little trickier. So a lot of people are doing like big contrast, like a really dark color with a light body color.
Right. If you see on the picture we had of the other house, those pop-outs were the third color. That other color. When we showed the back of that other house, those pop-outs actually dressed that house up considerably. It's kind of hard to tell from the pictures, but.
So you'll have to replace the windows also, or the trim of the windows. Do you have a color selected for that?
I have not. I'm thinking a dark brown or a black.
You mean for the window frames?
Right, until I get to the windows themselves and find out whether who I'm gonna use, Anderson, or they only have so many colors.
Chair, may I?
Yes, go ahead.
I'm just going to be direct and honest. I appreciate Jason and staff bringing this to try to accommodate for the applicant. I just feel like it's rushed and a little bit forced. I'm confused, and I don't think it's a complete application, and I don't feel comfortable voting on a motion tonight.
I did rush it. I would not argue that point at all.
Yeah.
Chair,
They had to fit me in, actually. He fit me in and said, here, I'll try and draw something up for you real quick.
Yeah. Okay, any other board members have the same opinion? Would you like to place this on hold?
Chair, I agree 100%. I think we've got way more going on than what's in front of us, and we're trying to guess. And I just think we need to park it until we get enough information to do something with it.
Okay. Would you like, if either Brian or you would like to make a motion to that effect?
Sure, I make a motion that we table this till next month, assuming that the applicant can get a complete package to staff.
I can't guarantee it, but I can sure try, but they've got to fit me in is the problem. Everybody's so busy. So it's liable to be a few months more than that before you can get me a full set.
Board.
Not a full set of construction plans, just for our purposes are just elevations.
Okay.
And
got a picture of the elevation.
Yeah, floor plan, site plan, elevations. That's what we need.
Okay.
And Chair, I second the motion.
Okay. Is there any discussion?
Now, as to go back, if this was just, if I did all this in slump block and left it.
What we're asking is for you to make your design decisions and bring it to us then, rather than us contemplating multiple choices. And then if you could get an elevation that presents exactly what you're planning to do.
Okay.
It's a lot easier for us to see than rather to kind of visualize from rough sketches,
right,
and photographs of other projects.
Right.
So this way, at least two of the board members feel. So I'm going to take a vote on the motion at this time. Is there any discussion by the board members? So there's a motion to postpone this to our next board meeting, the first Thursday in this May. It's going to be June. All in favor, say aye.
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 Aye. Any opposed? Okay, thank you. We're postponing it to our next meeting, so you'll be on the agenda. We just need to see a more clarified drawings.
Okay, thank you very much.
Thank you. And then last is the site architectural landscaping lighting plans proposed for Taco Bell. And we saw this last time for discussion. And some of the discussion we gave were about a lot of the purple. So Jason, you want to present?
Sure.
Your
The
staff
chair,
report?
board members, and I believe the applicant, Greg Hitchens, is present. So we presented Taco Bell's proposal to you as a study session item on your April 1st, 2021 meeting. At that time, staff presented to you basically our set of first review comments and requested that the design review board provide additional input and direction so that the architect on the project, Mr. Hitchens, could go back to his client Taco Bell and make adjustments to the building elevation, site plan, landscape plan based on those comments. Now, I prefaced all of those comments on the precedent set by the city of Litchfield Park on other applications that have been approved at the center. We currently already have multiple facilities built, either constructed or under construction or approved for Dysart and Camelback. Those include Dignity Health, AutoZone, CubeSmart Self-Storage, the Cobblestone Car Wash, and Denny's Restaurant. I noted in our last meeting that we have done a pre-app with a coffee kiosk sort of user that has not come in formally yet. I'm not sure if they're still interested. So the development of the Taco Bell restaurant really comes along and will build out what's left of the Dysart Road frontage. And we've been consistent since the approval of Dignity Health, which was the first user, which established the design criteria for what would be the center. And we spent a lot of time on Dignity Health to try to give it a less of a medical office building appearance and to try to soften it up so that it would encourage the retail that would be anticipated for the rest of the build up of the center to come along and look more retail oriented rather than medical office oriented, so that it would have a more softer residential appeal. And so that said, the development of the Taco Bell restaurant is important because it needs to fit in between what's the existing Dignity Health and the Cobblestone Car Wash, which is under construction. Staff's also been consistent in asking that drive-through users include colors and materials as established by the center, which we just discussed, as well as consideration for some level of outdoor dining, and all of the users at Litchfield Marketplace, as well as at Monument Point, have provided those amenities, and they're generally well used, especially when the weather is good. Obviously, when it's hot, a lot of times people don't want to eat outside, but for the other 9 months of the year, it's not too bad. So that said, Mr. Hitchens went back to his client and have made several adjustments to the site plan. I'd like to walk through, and then I'll show you the exhibits. They have provided covered outdoor seating on the west side of the building. This is consistent with city policy. It'll be a solid cover and provide a low screen wall to kind of enclose the area, and then landscaping outside of those little screen walls to make an attractive area for customers to dine outside. They've added an additional landscape buffer along the south property line so that the drive-through entrance tunnel lane and the drive lane of the Taco Bell site has sufficient area for tree plantings, which have been accommodated for. And we fixed some parking issues where we need a little bit of a hammerhead so that people could get in and out of the last parking space. The landscape plan's been significantly modified to match the plant material and granite type of Dignity Health, so we don't end up with 2 tones of rock and different trees and shrubs next door to one another, so they'll blend. So they've done that, as well as they've matched the lighting details of Dignity Health, so we don't have random differences in light poles, lumens, and temperature kelvins of lights. You know, we have blue lights and yellow lights and those sorts of things happening in the same general parking vicinity. So they've really gone a long way. The biggest changes we saw were in the elevations. You know, we really kind of pushed back on the prototype. I know they like to bring in the siding. This is what you saw last week, or last month, excuse me. Predominance of almost the entire building being in the Taco Bell's preferred prototypical siding, which we felt dominated the elevations. You will find a small amount of accent siding on the approved Denny's, but we didn't feel like we were in balance. So we pressed them. We did get an interim submittal before final submittal, and we pushed back a bit further since you've seen this. So we've actually gone through 2 iterations of elevations since you last seen it, and this is where we got to. So we now have a stucco finish, ethos finish here. We've got the introduction of the stone veneer to match dignity. We've asked them to provide some verticality so that stone veneer comes up more than just the slow wainscot. So you do some vertical elements so it's more visible. And they've emulated the metal paneling of the Dignity Health facility by simply providing ethos, but scoring it in a manner that looks and emulates what's occurring at Dignity without actually providing the metal panels. We've got some gooseneck lights that they like there. They've taken off the poster signage, which would not conform with sign code, where they put the, 2 burritos for a buck or whatever. You typically see those things, especially when you've got 2 gooseneck lights there where you wouldn't want to see signage there. Also here you can see the relatively simple contemporary straight shade structure occurring. It looks relatively diminutive, but I think that the intention here was to not take away from the front elevation, but rather just encase what are occurring down below, which are windows, and allow the architecture of the building to still stay and remain prominent. So the question that did come up, Chair, was how bold is this purple going to be? We got a crazy bold purple occurring up here, and then we've got a much more muted purple occurring down here. My understanding from the applicant and email correspondence, even up to immediately prior to this hearing, was that the purple matched the supplement that was sent to me via email. It would be a much softer tone than this kind of very bright purple. It would be closer to match this, but I don't know. I'll let the applicant speak for himself. I believe it's a bit more purple than this, not quite so gray. But in reference to all of this, I think you can see here's Dignity Health with the stone veneer, the ethos finish, the colors and materials match so that when they're side by side, they don't look like completely different projects, which is a significant change from what was originally submitted and presented to you. We do have a recommendation from the city engineer. There's a concern with site visibility being compromised by the position of the electrical transformer. On the initial site plan, it was placed in the site visibility triangle. On the revised site plan, it was, I don't believe, depicted. So as a caution, he asked that we ensure that the architect showed the new location of the transformer prior to submittal of construction documents to ensure compliance with site visibility triangles for ingress and egress. And this is important because working with the utility company and moving things through dry utility design can be a time-consuming process. So they'll want to settle this earlier than later. So in any case, we're supportive of the application. If you'd like, I can quickly try to toggle to the email from the applicant to show the purple in the color palette. Chair, if you'd like that, I can do that. Or
Yeah.
any questions?
Yes, please. And the other, the front elevation that faces Dysart, if you could.
Yes,
pull that up
yes. Let me pull it up. I'm gonna go directly to the full package. It's just gonna take me a second, and I believe in share screen. Can you see the share screen of the application page? You should be able to see it by now. And then I'll make everybody busy by scrolling. Of course, this shows the location. This is an old aerial. Oh, you know what? I need to toggle. I'm sorry. Let me stop sharing the Word document and share the PDF. My apologies. There we go. All right, now you'll see it. Okay, give me 1 second if you don't mind as I scroll through the narrative and get to the elevation pages. All right, so you've got the color, body color, stone. These are all intended to match Dignity. Here's the lighting details. The revised drive-through, you can see now the outdoor patio space has been accommodated. There used to be 3 parking spaces here, which were really not very well utilized and in an awkward position of the cars backing where there's, vehicles exiting the drive-through window. So they were overparked in each case, so they added that. And then they've got a direct pedestrian connection here. So it all kind of actually flows pretty well. The only thing we really don't have is a direct pedestrian connection with Dignity, but we have it provided over here and we have it provided across the by-mile. So we didn't really have too much heartburn over another connection, as we believe that they're pretty well connected. Here are the color rendered elevations. This is the side that's presented in the staff report. This is the front elevation, where you'll see a bit of the purple, the signature color and the material board that Taco Bell sought to retain. Staff's generally been supportive of allowing each of the users to introduce unique elements onto their buildings, so long as the body colors and other, broader materials remain consistent. Dignity has their orange glass, Cobblestone really didn't have anything different. Denny's had their, I don't know, it looked like a Cadillac car emblem signage going on with a little bit of yellow. So between these, it gives, I believe, enough differentiation in the center to provide interest without making the project look unrelated. Projects look unrelated to one another. They can have some unique identity without being too matchy-matchy, as I like to say. This is something different. The roof access was interesting, Chair. I don't know, we don't see this very often. I'm not super concerned with it as long as we don't see a bunch of equipment, but then again, this is facing the self-storage facility that's going to be behind it. And the drive-through patrons will see this. But in any case, the elevations have come a long way since the last time you saw it. So happy to answer any questions. Here's the drive-through side elevation.
Okay. I guess either you or the applicant, the material of the tower, the vertical tower there, what's the material?
I'm zooming in on the, give me a second as the page refreshes. Like it, oh, here we go. All right, it is funky color. Sorry, when you scan these images, sometimes they don't come out that clear. I should have called it out in the staff report. I did review it.
Is it the
Weathered
rustic,
Western States. So I'm not sure, Greg, maybe you can explain what the material type and reflectivity, et cetera, is of the tower treatment on the front elevation here.
Okay. So the applicant is present?
Yes. This is
Okay.
Greg Hitchens. I'm the architect. Jason did a really good job of covering the items that we addressed from the last time you saw this. There's just a couple of points I'd like to add to it, and I'll start with answering your question about the tower. We've toyed with, I say we, Taco Bell has toyed in the past with an actual rusting metal that turned out to be not a good choice. It was rusting down on the sidewalk. It was rusting over the entryway. So they've since found a product that's basically the same thing except accelerated. When you would look at this material initially on these buildings, it looked like galvanized, and then as it rained and weathered, it turned to this nice rusted patina. So now there's a product out there that looks the same, but it has a coating on it that doesn't allow it to further rust. It's a pre-finished look. So they've been having really good success with it. We always struggle with getting the exact representation in our exhibits that what it really is. It's actually a little darker than what this. It's not a bright orange. It's kind of a darker orange.
So rust.
Yeah. Right. And so I will tell you that Taco Bell's pleased with this. And when I say Taco Bell, it's actually two entities. There's Taco Bell Corporate, which is in Irvine, California, the headquarters, and there's the local franchisees, which this is a local franchisee. The building you saw initially is what Taco Bell Corporate wants. The building you're looking at now is what the franchisee wants, because he wants to build it in your town and he wants you to be happy with the design as he does. So from our side, we're there. The big question is is the board there. So most of the attention went into getting more of the elements of the other buildings, matching the colors. We're completely ethos, drive it. There's no siding left on this building. The prototypes still have it, but we won't be seeing it in Litchfield Park. We're going to see a stucco building like the other building, and the colors and the stone. We eliminated some of the purple, and again, it's a dark purple. I don't know how else to describe it, but it doesn't have any blue to it. It's just a darker purple is my best description of it. Not really accurately represented here, but it's close. So
I was trying to find the Sherwin-Williams color that was referenced on the one page that had all the sample colors. And I couldn't find it except for one that was right.
It's a custom color made only for Taco Bell. You won't find it. It's just one they make for them, and we struggle with that all the time. A lot of times we have to just come up with something that's close because we even have trouble getting it. But I could get a drawdown for it. I have some cities that absolutely want to see the paint on a card given to them, and we've done that before. And it
would be nice to have a sample of the actual color just to make sure it's where we want to be too.
Chair, I'm trying to figure out how to share the image that I've got of the purple. It's a deep purple. It's in my email. I don't typically share screen.
It came out very gray, but the title was purple. So I'm like, well.
Let me see if I may copy I'm going to see if I can copy the image and paste it into the staff report so I'm not sharing my actual email account. Hold on 1 second and I'll see if I can do that for you, and then you can see what was sent to us. Yeah, I can do it. If you don't mind, I can toggle. Just take 1 second. Am I sharing? I can't even tell if I'm sharing the PDF or if you can see the image of the paint swatch. Let me just stop share and then I'll reshare, and then I'll know what you're looking at. There we go. See the image?
Okay, yeah, that's better.
So I think, Mr. Hitchens, if you could clarify if that's a fairly accurate representation of the purple. The other purple that was shown in the digital Taco Bell that you sent me appeared to be more of a, I don't know how you could call it. It was like neon dark purple. It was very bold. And this one appears to be like a deep sandstone purple with like almost a grit to it, where it'll be perhaps less reflectivity and a bit more gray tones than a pure purple. I'm not an architect, you can tell.
In the old days, it was called plummy, but it's now their custom color, but it's very close to that. So it's kind of like a plum purple, I guess would be my best description of it.
Okay. One thing I wanted to address to the, I'm going to stop share real quick and go back to, shoot, I can't even see if I can share, to the PDFs. I just wanted to show that the screen wall of the patio is actually not depicted here, so you can see the building itself, but there's actually going to be this low screen wall that would be here. And then, Mr. Hitchens, can you address we have a couple tables out there? They're not shown on the floor plan, but I just wanted to ensure there's at least probably 2 tables.
At least, in fact, we can probably get more. I purposely didn't show that wall. I wanted you to see the stone. But if you look at okay. No, there'll be maybe 4 or 5 2-tops, or a 4-top and 3 2s, but there'll be some. But the seating decor people are all over that. Do we do floor plans? I don't recall giving you a floor plan.
We at times we've seen plans, but we don't necessarily need it. I presume there's door entries and there's a lot of pedestrian access occurring to the patio, so I didn't have any primary concerns with it. I just wanted to make sure that there would indeed be site furnishings put out there as opposed to just paved in walls.
And a trash receptacle.
Oh, that's good. Thank you. Are you gonna put it right over here so people can throw out their last fast food order? I love it when they have the trash can right there so you can make room for your cup holder, right? And the last time you went through it.
They've actually reinstituted that again. I haven't seen it for a long time, but it's out there. They want to do. I guess I don't know what's happening there, but yeah, they're wanting to see those again.
Do any of the other board members have questions or concerns? Or if everyone's in agreement that this is acceptable, we can make a motion to approve per staff recommendations.
I'll make a motion that we approve per staff recommendations.
Okay, and I'll specify that would include the transformer location to make sure that's not in the site triangle.
Happy to second that.
Okay, we have a motion and a second. Any further discussion? All in favor say aye.
Aye.
Aye. Any opposed? Okay, thank you.
Thank you.
And
Look
thanks,
forward to
Jason,
building in the community.
Thank you. Okay.
You're welcome.
And I think I don't have my agenda up. Let me see if I can find it. So the last I think is just staff report. Let me get my agenda.
Minutes, Chair.
Oh, minutes. Okay. So minutes for the February 4th meeting. Someone like to propose a motion to approve those?
I'll make a motion to approve.
Second.
Okay, all in favor, say aye.
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 Aye. Any opposed? Okay, thank you. Then staff report on current events.
Thank you, Chair. I know it's been a longer evening with a number of items on the agenda. I'll be brief. Staff was requested to provide the proposed major general plan amendment schedule in regards to JDM's inquiry for the 15 acres at the northwest corner of Wigwam and Litchfield Road. So it's our understanding that that site may be activated again with an application in the near future. So that would be a big development for the city for that site to be reactivated. We have an open zoning case on it that has remained dormant for 2 years. We provided first review comments on that project and we didn't receive a second submittal. So that's where we're at. Second, Sun Health is in development for their approved final development plan and construction plans. They had proposed the sign that you had reviewed at I believe it's something akin to a study session. We've provided direction to them that the course of action necessary for them to receive review and would be through a PD amendment, basically an act of zoning that would go to council that the design review board's purview wouldn't really be the appropriate venue for that project based on its being so far outside of the zoning ordinance allowances. So those are the two items that we have for you. Pam, I don't know, do we have anything else? Oh, we have an inquiry. Shall I say about Monument Point? The discussions we've had for Monument Point.
Sure.
We did have an inquiry about a possible second self-storage facility with possible RV boat vehicle storage to be located at Monument Point south of the Burger King. They would do a lot combination of 3 lots and have approximately 800 storage units. Clearly, that would be an item that would need to come before the board, but we've been providing direction through a kind of pseudo pre-application process to the developer that I believe is out of Las Vegas. It's mostly indoor storage. They seem to be quite creative, but I would suggest as soon as they're ready for pre-app, we may want to bring it forward as a study session item since they're proposing 3 floors, which is a bit new. But it's industrial and it's allowed to be 3 stories.
Thank you.
I do have, excuse me, Chair, I do have one other item. There was a letter received at City Hall today regarding a different address. It was 645 Valverde Circle. I believe some of the residents thought this was on the agenda instead of the Valverde Circle item that was on the agenda, and they're concerned. It's fairly long, so I can just say the neighbors are concerned. The house was recently sold, and the new owner is doing work on the home, and they are concerned about losing their views of the golf course. The house borders the golf course on the north side of the home. The golf course view is seen from the house. The new owner has said that he thought there's no HOA, and someone told him he could do whatever he wanted. In any case, I will provide you with copies of this letter, and I have advised code enforcement of the issues that were described in the letter. And right now, the owner has a permit just for interior work. And as far as the building inspector has told me, she has not viewed any exterior changes on the home. So I think there was just confusion about which item was on the agenda tonight. But I told the person who wrote the letter that I would bring it up to you and provide you with copies.
Okay, but this is not the previous address. It's a different.
It's a different address. I think they were confused. They thought this home was on the agenda instead of the one that was on the agenda.
Oh, okay. Okay. Anyways, I say this is one is a ways away from the golf course. Oh.
Yeah.
When I spoke with Pam, I think the concern was that there's information circulating on Nextdoor or other means of social media, that there wasn't confusion that the board had approved something that the neighborhood was against. It's something that has not come to the board yet, nor have we been presented with something that would need to come to the board since it's interiorly as far as we.
Okay. All right. And then anything else from staff? No. Any board members have any current events? Hearing none. Would someone like to move to adjourn?
So moved.
Second. All in favor, say aye.
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 Thank you, everybody. We're adjourned. Have a good night.
Thank you.
Thank you. You too.
Bye-bye.